Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
This is Bobby Okereke, inside linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, and you are tuning into the Blue Stable Podcast.
Welcome back to the Blue Stable. I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's ears right there, guys, but you already know what it is. It's time to get back into the football mode. Football is back. Guys, we have a preseason game coming up. We'll get into that just later on in the show, guys. We're going to talk about the unofficial Colts depth chart that was released today. Destin was back at training camp on Sunday, and we got to talk about what he saw. But before we do that, guys, we got to introduce everybody here. Rashad McGinnis, Big Money Bags McGinnis. What's up, man? How you been?
You can't call me Moneybags no more. I'm not the one that's at training camp. Destin is the man now. Destin has taken the crown and ran with it.
Whoa. I don't show up to training camp in 5-star suits or anything, though.
Hey, but you're there, and I'm not. I haven't been to training camp. I'm just stuck watching Destin's tweets, who does an awesome job going play-by-play, just giving you a breakdown while the event is going on. Destin is the best live tweeter I've seen so far at training camp. So make sure y'all follow him at, I ain't even gonna say it's Hollywood. He got a Hollywood at name. His at name is a lot sexier than mine. So y'all follow it. I'm pretty sure Mike has it over here somewhere. Wrong
I think it's
side?
the other way. I think it's the other way.
Oh, okay. All right. This side. Yeah.
It's all good. Just point it everywhere. Just we'll cover all the bases.
Right,
Up,
right.
down, left, right. It's
Make sure
somewhere.
y'all follow
It's
Destin
somewhere.
though, because he's gonna be at a couple of more training camp practices. So y'all make sure y'all catch that live tweet. He does a great job at doing it. And if you want to stay tapped in, that's one of the best ways to do so, man.
Hey, man, that is I'm gonna still be calling you Big Money Bags, man, because again, you outdressed everybody at the combine. But Destin, we could always go with Big Bank Hank, right, Destin?
I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, I like gated community shots. Someone commented that a while back.
Really?
Yeah, someone commented that a while back. I think it was while you were at the draft.
Let me search that.
I think it was something like I bet he lives in a gated community or something. But I really don't even remember who it was. But training camp's been cool, man. I mean, Sunday was hot. Like, oh my gosh, it was hot. There were people getting dragged out because they were passing out because it was so hot. I mean, shout out to the Grand Park staff, though. They were making sure to get water to people when they saw that they needed it. Some places would upcharge water on hot days. So shout out them for making some water even easily accessible and free for people if it looked like they needed it. And I'm telling you, there were people that looked like they needed it.
Speaking of water, guys, we are starting off the Blue Stable Podcast hot, ladies and gentlemen. So before y'all keep this show going, go and get y'all's water, coffee, soda, whatever you're doing to, listen to the show, whether if it's early morning or whatever the case may be. Destin, we're going to get into what you saw at training camp. All right. This is your second time out there. The first time there was no pads. They were still, in their shorts and helmets and everything. But now the pads have come on. Some guys have emerged as big time risers. Some guys have kind of fallen a little bit in the mud, but I'm going to give the reins to you, man. But before I do that, y'all know what it is. To help the Blue Stable grow, I need you to like, comment, share, subscribe. Remember, we are still running this jersey giveaway, but to get there, we have to get to 1,000 subscribers. All of y'all did a good job. Y'all really did a good job. But there's still some little people out there that still keep coming back and aren't hitting that subscribe button. So the button that just showed up right here or right here, whichever one, I need you to hit that subscribe button. The notification bell just rang. Y'all need to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. That way you are notified every time something is dropped on the Blue Stable channel. We have all kinds of things coming to you guys for the 2022 NFL season. So again, subscribe so we can get this thing to 1,000 subscribers and start this jersey giveaway. Now, Rashad, what's up, man? You got your hand up. What's up?
I just want to tell everybody, make sure y'all go check out my season preview article. Offensive edition and defensive edition is out now on the website. If you haven't seen it, you can't. I don't know what you're doing with yourself. Me personally, I really don't know what you're doing with yourself. Go check that out. Do yourself a favor. Get in tune. Learn who the Colts will lean on throughout this season, offensively and defensively, and I would really appreciate that.
Golly, Rashad, first off, you deliver mail Monday through Friday, and you delivering mail through the website? Man, he just gives us mail on all fronts.
Hey man, I gotta pay for the lights in this gated community I live in.
You still gotta pay for that ceiling, huh?
Yeah. Oh man. Look. It's back though. We good. It's leak proof.
It's back though, guys. Destin, man, let's take some control here real quick, man. What's up? Tell us about training camp and what was your little takeaway from it?
Yeah, so Rashad's out here shouting out articles, so I might as well shout out my own as well. For any other additional information that you may not hear on the pod today, just make sure you guys go check out the article I put out from being at training camp on Sunday. My overall takeaways, some shocking players showing out. Just make sure you're checking that out. We'll have the link in the bio. But also, just make sure you're subscribing to all of our articles. A bunch of writers putting out great content over at thebluestable.com. Make sure you're not missing any of that. But I'm going to start out with the offensive side of the ball. Sunday was rough for the offense, guys. You guys probably saw it on Twitter. I saw that they rebounded a little bit Monday, getting a little bit back on track, but it's normal early on in training camp for the defense to be getting the better of the offense. But it was a little weird because the offense had good days before that. And it's just like, Friday they had to run before the Sunday practice because they just didn't practice up to par to Coach Reich's par. So then to come out on Sunday and they just got their tail whipped the entire day. The offensive line just could not hold up for either side. And it was just rough. There were very few highlight plays for a lot of guys because of it. But I'll highlight some of the guys on offense that kind of showed out for me. So Nick Foles, you're not going to hear much about a backup quarterback often, but going from last year, having to watch these second-year Jacob Eason, rookie year Sam Ehlinger, and we were having to watch those guys with the ones and the twos. So getting a guy like Nick Foles with the twos, man, it's helping a lot of these receivers be able to put out something for these coaches. Kiki Qt, you've heard his name at least once a practice because he's been able to find a way to make a highlight play. Desmond Patman finds a way to get a big catch at least once or two in practice. I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce this guy's name, but I'm not hearing him much. And I mentioned him a little bit in my article. Samson Nautica, I believe is how you pronounce it. Receiver, 86 on the roster. You'll have to look it up a little bit. Every practice I've been at, he's made a highlight play. And we're going to get into the depth chart a little bit later, but he actually ended up getting listed on the 3 spot for the second outside receiver role. So probably just missing the roster basically when you look at the cuts and how they'll fall. He's been a shocker. He's out there, he's making plays. He has a good enough speed on the outside. He gets separation and more. I just haven't seen him drop the ball. And Sunday was huge for drops. The tight end room really, really struggled. Granson had a few drops, which is a common thing in his game so far in practice. Jelani Woods had multiple drops. The offense, just overall, Sunday was rough. It was a rough experience to watch, at least in the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 drills. And one-on-ones and things like that, they probably found ways to make highlight plays and give guys chances for the day, obviously. But when they were playing against a live defense, when you were watching them against the secondary, when you were watching them against DBs and the defensive line, they just could not put it together. Whether that was Matt Ryan, whether that was the offensive line just not holding up, it was just a rough day. And Matt Ryan had a good take on it after practice, sharing that even in those kind of bad practices, there's good things that come out of it. They know what they did wrong on Sunday. It's what he kept saying. And they know what they have to fix. And he said that's a good thing to go against. But going to the defensive side of the ball, where you're going to get a little bit more positives. The defensive line is deep, guys. And we haven't been able to say that in a minute. So I know Michael, his heart's probably skipping a beat when he hears that. But the starters obviously are getting theirs. I mean, the starters have been pretty copy and paste every practice. You have Pay, you have Grover, you have Buckner, you have Yannick on the line. But the guys behind them are even showing out a little bit. When the second team defense has played the first team offense, Ben Banagoo has been pretty much the backup Leo the entire way. And so you're seeing him perform. You're seeing Dio move a little interior, out exterior, playing some of that Leo role as a big Leo, I may add, because Dio is a big dude. But there's been multiple other guys. One of the big things that I think shocked me the most in Sunday's practice was we've talked a lot about it. We thought the run defense was going to be something the Colts are going to struggle in this year because of the switch in the defensive line aggression and how they're going to play under Nate Ollie. But the run defense was solid Sunday. Taylor wasn't getting holes. Hines wasn't getting holes. And one guy that a lot of people haven't talked a lot about, RJ Mcintosh, interior defensive lineman, was a huge part of that in the second team. He was swallowing up guys. And then the last positive I want to share from Sunday's practice, and you've heard it everywhere, and I want to end with it because he's that good. Stephon Gilmore has not lost a step. There's people that have discredited it. There are people that have been trying to talk about his last year in Carolina, blah, 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 blah. The Colts are getting a shell of Gilmore, whatever you want to say. But Gilmore didn't just look like the best DB on the field Sunday. He looked like the best player on the field. Gilmore was reading routes, breaking up passes, took a pick six off Ryan to the house in 7-on-7s just by making a solid jump on an in route, taking the ball from Paris and just gone. Gilmore is going to be that guy, guys. And they're throwing him a little everywhere. They're putting him on Pierce. You guys seen those sound bites where they're trying to see what Pierce is. So they're putting Gilmore on him. Gilmore's on Paris. Gilmore's on Pittman. Pittman has won routes against Gilmore. Don't get me wrong. But Gilmore has held his own against Pittman, who I think is going to jump into that top 15 receiver realm no matter what, maybe higher. So I'm really, really excited about Stephon Gilmore. And it's an every practice thing, but seeing it Sunday, that was the best practice I've seen live from him for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, everybody that's been at training camp has been raving about Stephon Gilmore. I wrote about it in my article. I believe I said that this was the best cornerback addition since Vontae Davis years ago. I know people was excited the way Xavier Rhodes played, but when you look at Xavier Rhodes, he was coming off of a terrible, terrible year. And his first year with Indianapolis was a pleasant surprise, but no one expected him to be that. Gilmore has never had that kind of a fall off. The only questions with him was injuries, was his ability to stay healthy. But when he came back with Carolina last year, he definitely showed flashes of being the guy that he's being practiced in and practiced out this year. So I'm excited to have it, man. It's been a long time, like I said, since the Colts had a bona fide number one. And I think that just makes the job easier on Julian Blackman, who's going to have the middle of the field. He's going to have to play over the top of these guys. He can cheat a little now to the cornerback 2 side because you don't really have to worry much about Gilmore. Gilmore's going to hold this side of the field down. And I think that's a big positive for it.
This episode is sponsored by Ticket IQ. Colts preseason and regular season is right around the corner. And if you want money off Colts tickets, Ticket IQ is offering 5% off your ticket order right now if you use the promo code Blue Stable at checkout. That's Blue Stable, not the Blue Stable, Blue Stable, and you'll get 5% off any Colts ticket. Additionally, Ticket IQ has A+ deals right now for week 1 against Kansas City, the home opener against Kansas City. The cheapest no-fee ticket. I just want to emphasize that again to you guys. No fee ticket. When I'm shopping tickets, fees get me every single time. I don't like seeing my tickets reading $199 to buy, and then it ends up being like $239 at checkout. If you see a ticket right now for the Kansas City Chiefs Week 3 at $129, it's $129 at checkout. And right now, $8 more, section 606, row 9 in the corner at the bottom of the upper level. You can get a ticket to the Chiefs home opener for $137. And when you use that promo code, that price is going to even go down. So make sure you use that promo code Blue Stable and go check out Ticket IQ today.
Shout out Ticket IQ, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Ticket IQ, 5% off. Go and get that discount as always. Now, guys, I hear all the things y'all were saying, but now we got to get into the depth chart because the depth chart was released earlier today, and it's unofficial, but it gives you a little bit of a look of what the coaches are thinking right now. Okay, so let's go from top to bottom. We already know, okay, there are going to be some positions where we really don't need to harp on too much. There's going to be some that there's going to be some good conversations in. Okay, so guys, let's kick it off. Quarterbacks. We already know what it is, man. Matt Ryan, first teamer. Nick Foles, second teamer. Third strings, well, they're all compiled together. Sam Ehlinger and Jack Cohn.
Who cares about 13 quarterbacks?
None of these guys will be on the 53.
We are not. I don't want to overreact. I don't. But if the Colts kept 3 quarterbacks on the 53 with so many of these other spots where there's just so many guys that are going to get cut that we don't want to get cut, I may lose it if I have to watch Sam Ehlinger make the roster and one of these receivers get cut because of him.
Hey, Destin, real quick, whose personality do you think is better, Sam Ehlinger or Jack Cohn?
Whose personality is better?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about Cohn's personality. He went to Notre. He was at Notre Dame, transferred in from Wisconsin, right? So a Big Ten kid before.
Hey, man, if his personality gets any better, Sam Ehlinger might make the roster. I'm just saying.
They're currently competing to see who can go through waivers to get on the practice squad, in my opinion.
They're battling it out for waivers.
Yeah, whoever clears waivers, man, they got the spot.
All right, well, Rashad, man, where you at? Quarterbacks, any take on them at all?
Look, Mike, save my opinions for the important positions. Quarterback is settled. Quarterback 1, quarterback 2. We know what it is. We know what it is. 2 guys that played in the Super Bowl. One Super Bowl MVP.
We got Frank Reich as QB3.
There you
Facts.
go.
Big facts.
That's the quarterback room, everybody. Of course, not much to talk about there. Running backs could possibly, maybe, it's not really going to be much of a conversation. Jonathan Taylor, the league's leading rusher last year. Obviously, we know where he's at. Nyheim Hines, obviously mixed in there. Obviously, if you look at the depth chart, there's a lot of guys mixed in there. Makes it look like, oh, is that, running back 3, running back 4? No, they're all compiled together, and they're behind Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. Behind Nyheim Hines, Phillip Lindsay seems to have that lead a little bit. He's followed by Deion Jackson, CJ Verdell, Tyson Williams, Devontae Price. Basically, it's I think that third team guy is gonna be about who can do some spot duty and what their impact on special teams is. Phillip Lindsay obviously sounds like he's been doing pretty well. He looks like his older self a little bit. He's hitting the hole a lot quicker than he was in Houston, and he just looks much better so far. But Destin, where are you at on these running backs?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor, Hines, their spots are locked up, obviously, and Hines is going to kind of sprinkle in the receiver realm of things as well as that running back too. The trying to predict if they keep 3 or 4 running backs has been interesting. It feels like if they go the 3 route, Phillip Lindsay will be that guy who gets that 3rd spot. If they decide to go 4, it's going to be really, really interesting. I thought Devontae Price, when he was out there before he got hurt, looked like the 4th best guy when he's out there. And just the splurts of how many big plays he was able to make. CJ Verdell's had good moments. The team likes Deion Jackson a lot from being here. those are the guys that have showed to me that if they decide to keep forward, probably be the lead in consideration, I guess. But I think Taylor, Hines, Lindsey, those three will be here.
Okay, I got a curveball for you, okay? 3 running backs make the roster, Taylor, Hines, Lindsey. What 2 running backs or 1 running back, whichever one you prefer, which 1 or 2 do you think the Colts will keep on the practice squad?
I mean, it's just all about who gets through waivers, really. I mean, Price was undrafted, Verdell was undrafted, Jackson was undrafted, and then Tyson Williams is a guy who was a free agent that came in from Baltimore, so he's a vet. It just depends on what they want. I mean, if they had to waive Deion Jackson, it seemed like they like him a lot. So if he got through waivers, he'd probably be the top guy that they'd want on the practice squad, if I had to guess.
Not even a damn mention of Devontae Price. Screw you.
Hey, I like Devontae Price. We talked about this during draft season. He was one of those guys I would have loved for them to take a flyer on the 7th round. They ended up getting even a better deal and got him undrafted.
Hey, we team Devontae Price over here, man. We team Devontae Price over here.
If he didn't get hurt, I feel like he would have a very inside track if they kept 4 running backs. But the fact that he's not been out there at practice for what is it now? 4 straight. That it's hard if you're undrafted. It's hard to miss reps, and it's not his fault, obviously, because he's hurt. But if you're an undrafted guy, you cannot miss these reps right now. They're just too valuable.
Yeah. Right now, you don't want to be injured, and we're actually going to get into a position group where somebody happens to be injured, not looking too great for them in terms of their chances of making the roster, and that's going to be the wide receiver room. Now, just like Destin said, deciding whether the Colts are going to keep 3 or 4 running backs, it's the same thing is going on for the wide receiver room, whether they're going to keep 5 or 6 wide receivers. I don't think 7. I'm not going to say it's not a possibility, but right now, you really look at that, the quality of 5 through 9 or 5 through 7. Are you just better off, sticking with 5? So let's talk about the wide receivers that the Colts are looking at right now, how things are constructed on this depth chart. Michael Pittman, clearly, wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 2, Paris Campbell. Wide receiver 3, Alec Pierce. So those will be your starters. Now, coming in behind them, Ashton Doolin has that wide receiver 4. Kiki Qt, who Destin mentioned earlier in the show. Kiki Qt is listed as wide receiver 5. And then you got Desmond Patman. Isaiah Ford is thrown in there. Samson Nakua, who Destin mentioned earlier. Again, Mike Strawn, the guy who, took preseason by storm last year, obviously entered into training camp with an injury. Not looking too great for him because, again, everybody's battling and he's on the sidelines, unfortunately. Not his fault. He's injured. Then you got DeMichael Harris, you got Michael Young, and then you got Ethan Ferreira, DJ Montgomery. So for the wide receivers, we already know who these 4 guys are. But from what you've seen in practice, and Rashad, I want you to get in here a little bit as well. If you're just thinking they stick with 5 wide receivers and that 5th guy, they got to decide it. Right now, it's looking like it could be Kiki Qt. What separates him from what you've seen? Because he's sort of a vet. He's been in the league for a while. What separates him from the other guys like a Michael Young, a Desmond Patman, because he's clearly separating himself from the rest of the pack?
I started out by saying that Kiki, every single practice, has been back on punt returns, been participating in kick returns, so that he has that element going in his way as well. That if they're going to keep that 5th receiver, 5th, 6th receiver, they're going to want him on special teams as well. So him having a clear-cut role to be there in the special teams area, that makes a lot of sense. But also, Kiki's just looked good, man. I mean, when he came in last year, chilled on the practice squad a little bit as one of those protected spots that they were able to have over the last couple of years. He was dealing with some injuries. He wasn't really all the way there, but he was signing because they saw something. I mean, we always used to talk about it. He torched Indianapolis. I mean, if you go through his highlight reel, it's pretty much a versus Indianapolis highlight reel for QT. And when you watch him in training camp, I mean, he creates separation. He has really reliable hands for an interior guy, for being that slot. So it didn't shock me at all that he was listed as Paris Campbell's backup right now on the depth chart as the backup slot, and why he has the inside run right now. And the thing that I'm really interested about, and we can have a conversation about this. So with Strong, I'm really curious. So it's a knee injury, obviously. He ended up having a surgery this offseason. Not much details out there about that right now, but I'm curious if they decide to go the season pup route. Because then you don't have to slide him through waivers. You keep him on the injury list. He misses those first 6 games no matter what. And then if they decide to go 6 receivers when he comes back, then because they like the kid, man. They do. Like, you hear it when you talk to anybody out there, any of the coaches, like they see something in this kid. And maybe if Desmond Patman was going out there and just impressing every single person day in, day out, that wouldn't be something in the back of their mind. I think Patman's fine. I think Patman is a 5, a 6 receiver across the league on a lot of teams. I really do. And I think if he goes through waivers, somebody picks him up, because I do think he has talent in a spot somewhere in the league. But he just hasn't separated himself enough for them to stop thinking about the potential they know Strong has. So to me, I think the best route they can go, because they're not going to feel comfortable enough to give him a spot over some of these guys without practicing. They're just not. And if this knee injury is going to hold him out, put him on the season pup. He misses those first 6 games, but you don't have to waive him. You don't have to worry about him being a roster spot. So you basically just get to hold him for free for 6 weeks. That's what I would do if I was the Colts.
I think, man, that Strong situation is it's a pretty dicey one. It's pretty tricky. It's a guy that we know this time last year, we was actually wondering if he can be a contributor somewhere down the line on this team. And things just kind of broke bad for him. You know, he played early. He had a couple of hiccups. So they decided to sit him. And then he just got injured at one of the most unfortunate times there is, man. I never thought about the pup route. That's interesting. And I actually like that more than him just being cut, because I don't think he clears waivers if he is cut. There's no way they're gonna get him back to the practice squad. He has connections in the league. You know, Michael Irvin is his godfather, I believe. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know about Mike Strong. The hype train picked up pretty thick in preseason last year. So I'm sure there's people that's tapped in and checking in on him as well, you know, wondering what the Colts are going to do with that roster spot. Hopefully they find a way to, like you say, put him on pup the first 6 weeks and then decide to keep 6 wide receivers. Because looking at this group, no one outside of, you know, separating the top 4 from this. It's been pretty much Kiki Qt show, really. You know, we see a couple of splash plays from different guys every now and then. Samson, we saw the one-hand catch by Michael Young for a touchdown in one of the one-on-one reps. We see spot plays, but the only guy that's continuing to win on routes and get separation and has really good chemistry with Nick Foles is Kiki Qt, and he's proven already. We've seen him do it in the NFL. He did it to us, you know, while he was a member of the Texans. So we saw firsthand what he can do. I'm pretty sure that played into the fact of why Chris Ballard even decided to bring the guy in who knows better than Ballard. It pretty much seems like it's locked. You know, set 5 guys. Desmond Patman just has not taken the step that I think they were expecting him to take. Now, there's 3 preseason games for him to change this outlook. But, you know, this is a guy who actually played in the Arizona game last year, a significant game that the Colts needed to win. He actually played and caught a touchdown, caught his first career touchdown. So this is a guy they trust, but he has not taken that next step that they'd expect in his development. And entering year 3, you know, this is a crucial period for him. And I think there's a lot of pressure on him coming into this preseason game at Buffalo Saturday.
So just I'm sorry, Mike, but so for the QT statement as well, the big one that I guess we didn't even share about is Paris looks good in camp. He does. But there's still that cloud that's going to be over every person's head is, can he stay healthy this year? So you have to keep that 5th receiver in the light of, I mean, Doolin obviously has that 4 spot on lock right now. and he could slide into the interior as well. But I feel like that just makes that interior spot even more important in this depth conversation of why Kiki has looked so good and how he can slide in. Because Doolin can be a depth guy on the outside. He really can. He's shown it in camp. He's having a really, really strong camp. I know it's said everywhere. I know we mentioned that he has that 4 spot on lock right now, but I think it just needs to be said very clearly that Doolin looks like he has taken a huge step as a receiver. Like, I'm really interested to see how it all plays out, but his route running looks better. He's learning how to use that speed and leverage it on defenders. He's learning how to high point the football, use those hands as an asset. Like, he looks like a guy who's going to play receiver. I'm really curious for the gunner position, what they're going to do, because with Doolin taking the step here, I could see him just not being a gunner at all. And they use him in that receiver route, especially if they only keep 5 receivers. They're not going to keep 5 receivers and then Doolin be the gunner as well. They're not going to do it.
Wide receiver is definitely something that everybody needs to keep an eye on. Obviously, you have 3 preseason games to be able to watch and take in your own opinion about these guys. Next up is going to be the tight end room, and this one is a little bit more interesting because obviously Mo Alie-Cox is your tight end 1, but everything after him has always been a question mark, has always been, has been an unknown, really. So now someone is actually separating themselves from the pack, and that would be Kylan Granson, who has obviously his spring was very, very up and down, very inconsistent, but his training camp is much better. His feel is much better. His route running is much better, catching the ball at a more consistent rate instead of the drops that he had in spring. And then obviously behind them, you got Drew Ogletree, you got Jelani Woods, and then you got a Nikola Conlick, and then Michael Jacobson. Those are going to be obviously your 5 and 6 tight ends. I don't think the Colts will keep 5 and 6 tight ends. I don't think they would. So, Dustin, if you would like to just focus on these 4 and not give any love to Nikola or Jacobson, that is all up to you. But talk to us real quick before we get into the Drew Ogletree, and he has been a riser in camp. Before we get into the Woods, I want to focus on Kylan Granson real quick, okay? Because this is a guy, obviously, who, me, myself, I've obviously, since the draft, propped up Jelani Woods. There have been other people that have propped up Jelani Woods, but he's a rookie. So you always question who's going to be that tight end too. Kylan Granson, what is he doing in camp to basically separate himself from the pack?
Yeah, I mean, snap-wise, it's definitely Mo Alie-Cox has the majority of the first team. Then Granson has a pretty solid cut over Ogletree and Woods. And the big one is whenever Granson's in with Ryan looks his way a lot. He really likes to find Granson in the middle of the field, get him the ball, let him move with it. We saw his run after catch used a little bit last year in little splurts here and there, but I really think they like that ability out of him. He's still having drop issues in practice. That's going to be a thing that is something to watch. Sunday, I counted 2. A possible third that I didn't end up contributing to him as the defender was right there, so I won't give it to him, but had 2 clear drops on Sunday even, and it feels like he has a drop at least every day in camp. And Ryan kind of mentioned it a little bit. The drops are not the end of the world in practice. We need to get into the game, see what happens in the live action, let it play out. But like that's an issue that he's going to have to fix because there's nothing that can drop you on a depth chart quicker than key drops in games, especially with a guy like Matt Ryan, who is going to demand excellence from these guys on the field, demand that you're in the right spots, demand that you're doing your role correctly. You drop a ball right there. I mean, you're going to hear him in press conferences preach the forget that play, move on. But they're going to be forgetting that play and moving on the bench. So, but and then after Granson, the Woods and Ogletree conversation. Ogletree, I mean, the Colts did the little line under on the depth chart to kind of make it so it's not official. It's the first depth chart. But I mean, Drew Ogletree is the 3 and Woods is the 4 right now. A lot of people may be surprised by that. And I don't think it's as much as Woods has been worse than expected, because Woods was drafted as a raw prospect. He was. I mean, you see it out there in the route running. He gets lost a little bit here and there. The speed is evident, though. He's a big dude. He has pretty sure hands. He had some drops on Sunday, but the entire team had some very uncharacteristic drops. But Woods through camp, usually when he's thrown the ball, has been able to catch it. It's just he's not been able to connect the speed with route running yet, doing it as a pro. It's going to come along. It's something guys struggle with early on. But Drew Ogletree just seems more pro ready. He's a receiver guy who transferred over to tight end. So I think he has a little bit more skills in the route running realm. So he looks a little bit more comfortable out there. He also is ginormous. I mean, Woods is a big guy, but you add the fact that Ogletree has the hair on top of it, gives him another inch or two. He's just a very thick guy, very beefy in the shoulders. Like he's a ginormous guy. So the Woods thing right now with him struggling, I think it just has given Ogletree the chance to show what he can do, has made some acrobatic catches. It doesn't shock me at all that he's tight end 3 right now. I think those are the 4 tight ends that are getting kept no matter what. And I think they're going to try to keep them all fresh and kind of give them all different roles throughout the year, and spread it out. Mo Alley-Cox will dominate the first team snaps. Like no question there. But I think Granson, Ogletree, Woods, they're going to have very specific roles for all of them, because all 4 of them have gotten first team snaps.
Is there any concern early on? You know, right now, from what you know today, what you've seen, there's obviously question marks behind Mo Alley-Cox. And I think Mo Alley-Cox himself is somewhat of a question mark to a certain degree as far as tight end 1. He's proven he can be tight end 2 and tight end 3. That's not a question. But after Mo Alley-Cox, when it comes to Granson, raw prospects, like you said, in Ogletree, in Woods, do you think the Colts can find themselves in a situation to where these guys, Granson, Woods, Ogletree, are just too raw, where they're kind of making too many mistakes and it's costing us through the season? And could you see possibly them go maybe a vet tight end right now, sitting here today? Do you think that's somewhere they can go?
No, I don't, because they'd have to keep 5 tight ends eventually then, because they're not getting rid of any of these guys. They like the potential of Granson, Ogletree, Woods, and to go get a vet. And we hadn't talked about Mo Alley-Cox a lot there because the young guys are just the talk of the town right now. But Mo Alley-Cox has looked clear and away the best tight end in the room. He really has. He's looked improved as a route runner. I feel like he has the least drop issues of any of them. And obviously, he's the best surefire blocker out there in the tight end room. He is the guy. He's out there teaching these guys. He's out there coaching them up. Like he's being a true vet. He really is. He's taken on that role with Doyle gone, obviously. And Mo Alley-Cox is impressed. I think he has shown that he's the number 1 guy right now. And the guys behind him, I think it'll be those 4. And I think the depth chart of it could switch week to week via what the game plan of it is. And Ogletree and Woods are going to see their snaps. They're going to out-snap Granson, like in the red zone aspect of it. But I think they're going to really try to use Granson in the middle of the field and things like that, because they keep using it in camp. But that is a constant with the first team reps that he's seen.
Well, Colin Granson, to me, is clearly, like, I see why he's listed as number 2. You know, he's a complete different body type from everybody else in the room. You know, the way he wins is different from everyone. He wins in a short area a lot easier, and he gets separation a lot quicker than those other guys because their body types is just different. You know, Granson, I love his role in this offense, the Trey Burton type role that we saw from him 2 years ago. You know, I think a lot of people are not giving him his credit because of his size. He's not the big guy. He's not the flashy guy, but he can work some of that underneath stuff too that Doyle used to do in his role. I know he's not the blocker that Doyle was, of course not, but you're going to have to find a way to get Kylan Granson the ball. And I think that's who we've been seeing from Frank Wright in training camp. They've seen they've been getting it to him in all different type of ways. He even caught a pitch that he ran in for a touchdown and he lined up in the backfield. You know, you have to get creative with a guy like Colin Granson and find ways to get him the ball. I think he will do that. Drew Ogletree is a guy I've known the Colts to love for a couple of years now. I've been saying it. We've been saying it, actually, me and Destin, We know him for a while that the Colts loved Ogletree. He's a guy been on the older side, so it's not surprising to see he's a little more polished than Jelani Woods. Jelani Woods is more like the freak athlete, the ball of clay, a guy you want to mold, pretty much similar in the vein that Mo Alley Cox was when he came. He was just completely raw, was a basketball player. They turned him into what he is today. And I think Jelani Woods has even more potential than that. His upside is even higher than Mo Alley Cox's was, but it's going to take some time, for him to get used to the NFL speed, for him to develop as a blocker, learn a playbook, learn a scheme. That's all going to take time. Drew Ogletree, like I said, 24 years old, be 25 coming up pretty soon. And I think he is just developed more right now. And I think he has upside as well. And I've seen him make a lot of plays in the red zones. He's a big target. They're going to look to get him the ball as much as they can. But I think clearly 1 and 2 will be Mo Alley Cox and Colin Granson, as long as Kylan Granson can stop dropping the football. That's literally the only knock I have with him. He'll never be a great blocker. He's never be a good as blocker as those 3 guys that I'm speaking about. But he can do different things that they can't do, such as run routes, get separation, and just be a mismatch for the offense.
Definitely good stuff. Good stuff as always, guys, on the Blue Stable podcast. Let's move on to the offensive line here a little bit, because there's actually some interesting things. If you look at this depth chart, there's some interesting things going on. Now, Braden Smith, Brian Kelly, Quentin Nelson, we don't have to get into too much of that, but real quick, obviously, all 3 of them had a little bit of an up and down season last year. Real quick, Destin, how have those 3, specifically those 3, how have they looked? Do they look like they got a little bit of their step back? You said the other day, it was evident on Twitter, the offensive line was getting their asses handed to them. How do they look in general, though? Do they look a little bit more better, more healthier?
The only one that has gone down in practice at all was Ryan Kelly. He went down at one point and had to miss like the end of camp practice, but was there full padded up, ready for Sunday's practice afterwards. So the biggest thing right now is they've all stayed healthy. Not every team can say that about their offensive line so far through camp. So that's the big one right now. And again, early on in camp, it's a very evident thing that the defense gets the offense's number. So I'm curious to see how they hold up come preseason. Like, let's see who of these guys are going to play. But I'm not all that concerned about any of them yet. I think Matt Pryor had the best practice that he's probably had. I know we're not talking about him yet, but I think he had his best practice Sunday when we were out there, holding his own a little bit, trying to stamp that week 1 starter spot that it looks like he's inching closer to having. So I think the starters are kind of in place for week 1. Like, that's the thing that I think is going to be shocking to a lot of people, is I think they thought it was going to be more of a battle for some of these spots, but it looks like it's going to be Pryor, Nelson, Kelly, Pinter, and Braden Smith as the 5.
That's pretty much how I saw it. That's pretty much how I saw it as well. No surprise. The battle, people was talking about maybe Pryor getting kicked inside the guard and Ryman winning the tackle spot, and maybe Dennis Kelly, being a swing tackle. But this was Pryor's job. And Ballard said that early on. So that's pretty much the notion that I ran with, that this was Pryor's job to lose. And by the way, they've been coming out every single training camp practice, lined up with Pryor as the number 1 left tackle. It's not as good of a battle as everybody anticipated. And the only reason I kind of perked up to it was because Chris Ballard was asked specifically about it, and he listed it, as one of the position battles he was looking forward to when he was posed with the question. So he listed left tackle, he listed tight end 2, I believe, and safety, if I remember correctly. So I was looking at the left tackle position closely, but as Destin was telling me, all the training camp practices he's been in so far, he's been a left tackle. Everybody else out there, all the great guys, Kevin Bourne, Nate Atkins, Jake Arthur, I've been seeing all those guys, Brimmer, just talk about Pryor getting all of the snaps. So I guess it's not the battle we anticipated. Hopefully Danny Pinter's, solidifying himself and getting comfortable with the guard position. I know he never played the guard position full time, was a former tight end, I believe, then converted to tackle. And now he's playing right guard, man. And I'm excited to see what he can do. He can excel at center. So I think he can be a pretty good right guard, man. hopefully, Braden Smith's bringing him along. There's going to be Braden Smith's running mate for the next couple of years, and hopefully they can establish a chemistry and get a couple of snaps in this weekend.
Hopefully for the next couple of years. I think hopefully for the next 10 years, hopefully for longevity with those two guys, obviously. A couple of other things I noticed on here. The rookie, Ryan Van DeMark, has the number 2 right tackle spot over the veteran, Dennis Kelly. That one was interesting to me. Dustin, I know you were a fan of Van DeMark in the draft process. Talk to us about what Van DeMark is doing a little bit to separate himself from Dennis Kelly. Obviously, you mentioned the edge rushers, the 2s with the second team. They're doing a little bit good. What is it about Van DeMark that's separating himself from Kelly specifically?
I really don't think it's been anything much other than Dennis Kelly has now missed practice over a week because he went down with an injury, and Frank made it pretty clear, on Sunday's practice afterwards that he's probably going to miss some time. So I think Van DeMark's probably going to take that spot. They gave him a good amount of money as an undrafted free agent anyway. So I think it was his spot to lose in that site, but they liked Kelly. They do. And maybe he ends up on that season pup list as well. I don't know.
And Rashad, you noticed earlier how Matt Pryor had his best day of practice. But if it was Ryman, now Ryman is the out there manhandling guys, man.
You should have took that bet, Mike.
Now I wouldn't.
Hey,
say
man, right
that
now
Pryor was manhandling anybody.
Now, right now, I'm not gonna say like I feel too good because again, we haven't even played a preseason snap yet. I like to hear, Matt Pryor separating himself, which is what I expected it. Again, Ryman is a rookie. I don't think he's ready yet. He's not getting blown up or destroyed in camp. So that's a good thing, especially if the Colts, kind of look at him and majority of the fan base kind of look at him as the long-term left tackle. So that's a good thing that he's not, getting blown up, destroyed in camp. But with Pryor, from just asking a couple people, he's getting a little bit better and better each day. Early on, Destin, you were talking to me and you were telling me, Yannick was whooping his butt. And then, like you said earlier, he had his best day. His feet are getting better. His technique is getting better. And that's something that I just, that's why I felt good about saying Pryor would be left tackle 1. Because he's a vet in this game already. He learned a little bit about technique, leverage, playing tackle when he played right tackle, started 4 games for the Colts last year, went up against some pretty good edge rushers. We learned a little bit about that in terms of technique. He's fought for positions a lot. He was a 2-star at college, battled a 4-star lineman to win the right guard job at TCU. He's used to being in position battles already. This is a walk in the park for him. I believe he's been here. He's done that. So I'm comforted that he's, taking this lead. But again, preseason hasn't even come yet. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But I'm not, taking my victory lap yet. I'm not doing that yet. So I've learned in the past. But again, Ryman, 3rd-round rookie. He's
a humble
learn,
Mike. You're
grow.
growing right before my very eyes, bro. I'm proud of you. You're really growing up, man.
Hey, man, Ryman is a 3rd-round rookie. He's going to grow up. He's going to get better. He's going to learn to play left tackle at the NFL level. So if he's able to do that, the Colts just might have their long-term left tackle in him if Matt Pryor doesn't reach the level the Colts really want at that specific spot. Now, that was the offense side of the depth chart. But getting into the next is a sponsored segment by Manscaped. If you haven't heard already, it's Smooth Sack Summer, everybody. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're scaped for complete smoothness. That's right. This is the summer to keep your package cool while still looking hot with Manscaped. The leader in below the belt grooming is making sure we all have a ball this summer by giving your pant partners everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with our code BSTABLE20. Again, guys, they got plenty of great products over there at Manscaped. I use quite a few of them myself. Run over there and get 20% off. They also have a summer sale, an additional 20% off. So you get to double dip a little bit of that in there as well. So Getting into the defensive side of the ball. Here we go. Let's start with the defensive line. Okay, so let's go to the defensive line. Talking about, you already know who your 4 starters are going to be. You got Yannick Ngakoue, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye. Now, behind them, something was a little bit interesting. Someone pointed it out. Someone that sent me a DM that Dio Odangbo was a 3rd string lineman. I don't read in too much into that. That's probably just where they have him listed. I don't think he's going to play more outside snaps than Tyquan Lewis. He's still going to play a huge role in the defensive line. He's going to get the 5th most snaps, I think, maybe 5th or 6th most, along with, battling with Ben or Tyquan in terms of snaps. But I wouldn't worry about that too much about Dio. He's going to be a featured player in this scheme. But the backups, guys, let's talk about that. Tyquan Lewis, RJ Mcintosh, Destin, you mentioned him in your article. You mentioned him at the beginning of the show. Eric Johnson, the 2nd, the 5th round rookie. And then you got Ben Bandigu again. Talk about this 2nd unit of defensive linemen and what you're seeing from them, because like you said, they've gone up against the first team offensive line. What are some of the things you're seeing that Tyquan is looking like, obviously, after the horrific injury last year? Ben, well, let's just be honest. It was never really a talent issue with him. And then you got RJ Mcintosh, the vet that was brought in. You got Eric Johnson, the 2nd. How are those guys looking?
Yeah, I mean, Ben training camp Banagoo is out in full force, obviously. But I will say, I just think the Leo spot, you can tell in camp that it fits him. It really does. So you can tell that he's just a little bit more comfortable. He's had snaps where he's won against the first team offensive line. He's really done well against the 2nd team offensive line. I think him as the backup Leo was pretty penciled in for me. Eric Johnson, man, he has this just explosive first step. And you see it live, and it's just fun. I'm pretty pumped to watch him during preseason. And then RJ Mcintosh is a guy, again, a lot of people haven't talked about, but I think he's going to be a dang good run stopper, just to come in whenever he's needed, really. He's looked good in camp. I think he's kind of separated himself from some of those 3rd string guys. Curtis Brooks at times, I know a lot of people saw him as a 3rd string rookie guy. They still really like him. I think they're just trying to figure out what the best role for him in this defense will be. And Tyquan Lewis, I mean, he didn't have to open up on the staying on the pup very long, so that was a pretty good sign for him. And he's been easing his way back in. He's had some good practices, but I wouldn't say he's popped by any means. But I think he had that spot behind Kwity pretty on lock anyway.
Yeah, man. I think the whole Dio thing that you was addressing earlier, I think it's just a matter of him being able to play multiple positions, do this versatility. The Colts didn't put much effort into this depth chart. This is not finalized or anything like that. Dio's going to get snaps, and he's going to get snaps all over. And similar to Curtis Brooks, I seen that he was getting snaps at the big end position, which I think is an interesting twist, from a guy who worked exclusively inside in college at Cincinnati. So I like to see them moving him around and playing to his strengths, because when he was in the middle, he wasn't allowed to just be a pure pass rusher. He had other responsibilities. They asked different things of him, but that's not to say that pass rushing isn't one of his strengths. If he was asked to do that in that role, but as the big end, he'll set the edge on run plays. When you have a lot of the bigger body guys, when you go against your Derrick Henrys and things like that, I think that's a role you can see him get some snaps at early on in the season and find a way to put him on the field, because a lot of these defensive linemen, you need them to be fresh. You don't want them taking a whole bunch of snaps. That's how your defense get wore down and beaten down. This defensive line likes to rotate. Gus Bradley's always been a guy that rotates early and often from when I started watching him closely with his Chargers days. He's always been a heavy rotator. Don't want you to take too many snaps. Don't like to keep a fresh set of people attacking at all times is a priority for Gus Bradley.
Eric Johnson is the one that kind of sticks out to me a little bit, because obviously the word around town has been his first step is just so quick. And I think one of the best, if not the best trait a rookie defensive tackle can have is that first step off the line of scrimmage, especially if you face, again, these lower tier guards, lower tier centers that you can definitely get by. Right now, it's going to be about if his first step is there, going forward, I want to see, how he uses his hands, how he uses his pull, his rips and everything, how he does all that, even though that's more of a edge rusher type move. I'm intrigued by that because that's something you're going to need, especially if you're going to rely on DeForest Buckner and Dio Dangbo on your pass rush in the interior. Those guys are going to have a break eventually. So not putting everything on Tyquan inside and out. You also got a guy who has a quick first step in Eric Johnson. That's obviously important in my opinion. So again, real quick before we move on to the linebackers, Destin, this actually hasn't been discussed a lot, I've noticed, but I do want to get your opinion. What does the second year product Kwity Paye look like so far? Because obviously, some would say he had an underwhelming rookie year. I wouldn't necessarily say that. He figured out a little bit as the season went on, but how has he looked in camp so far? This is the second year defensive end. We're expecting some good things out of him this year.
Yeah, I mean, Quity's been pretty consistent now. I think the thing for him and Yannick is that Yannick is getting to go against the left tackle every single day, which right now is a bigger question mark than Braden Smith. So Kwity Paye is going against Braden Smith almost entirely every single day. I think it's going to make him better. I think he is showing off a little bit more moves in the pass rush, and I guess we'll see how many snaps he gets in preseason if he gets to show those off. But I'm not worried about Kwity. I think he's still going to have a pretty productive year. I think he's still going to be that second pass rusher, but I think that could be better for him.
All right, good stuff. Going on to the linebackers here, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, your three traditional, if you had your starters, your three traditional linebackers would be Bobby Okereke, Shaquille Leonard, and Zaire Franklin. We obviously, know who Shaquille Leonard is. There's not an update as of right now about where he is injury-wise. We won't get into that. Bobby Okereke, I'm very interested because he's one of those players where you think is he a guy that Chris Ballard is going to bring back? You see a lot of contracts that can be given out over the next year. This is going to be a year where he really does have to play a little bit more better to catch those eyes of Chris Ballard and say, you know what, I need to give you this contract. But when it comes to the backups, okay, Bobby Okereke's backup, the middle linebacker, is actually going to be EJ Speed, which is interesting because he used to be the backup Will to Shaquille Leonard. Now he's that guy behind Bobby Okereke. But I think an interesting development because of that is the emergence of Forrest Rhyne. Now, again, this is the early depth chart, but the rookie Forrest Rhyne is listed as the backup to, I want to say, the backup to Shaquille Leonard. So your backup linebackers as of right now, EJ Speed, Forrest Rhyne, and JoJo Domann. So you got two rookies, making some plays out there. Destin, talk to us about these depth guys because, again, we already know who these guys are in the starters, but these depth guys, that seems to be more of what we've been talking about this whole show. So really, what are you seeing, especially from the guy EJ Speed, who I'm hoping to see a lot more of this year?
First I'll say that a lot of people were shocked about the Bobby being at the Will spot and Shaquille moving over to the Mike. In practice, Bobby's really just only been working in the Will spot, so I felt like that was a indication of what they were moving towards. So if Shaquille is going to miss any time early on, they've been running Bobby at the Will, Zaire at the Mike, and then EJ Speed at the Sam. So that is what should be expected if Shaquille's not out there. But currently, looking at the backup, Speed, Ryan, Domann, Forrest Rhyne, I mean, he came out really fast. He's been out of practice for a few days. He was back on Sunday finally. So there was a little cool off there. If you want my big hot take of camp so far, JoJo Domann I'm penciling him in the 53. JoJo, man, he looks good. He really does. He's been running as the backup Mike. So seeing him as the backup Sam here to Zaire, I wonder if it's just because he's been backing up Zaire the entire time in camp at the Mike right now because Shaquille's not out there. But because I just really am not sure what the Mike spot looks like right now, if Shaquille's not out there early on, I think JoJo is just earning that spot because he has been primarily the guy behind Zaire. They don't have many guys that they've put out on that area, and he just looks good, man. He's been fast. He's been around the ball. I think he's just separating himself from a lot of these other guys outside of speed, obviously, is that fourth linebacker. But for that 5 cut, to me, it's looked like JoJo's the 5th best linebacker out there.
Yeah, man. An interesting thing that caught my attention about the depth chart is the switch. From Bobby Okereke from Mike to Will, and Shaquille Leonard going from Will to Mike. In Gus Bradley's defense, the Will has a lot of responsibility as far as matching up, with the guys, the tight ends, the slot guys, the running backs coming out of the backfield, and maybe Gus wants Bobby in that role because he feels like that fits his strong suit better than it does Shaquille. He wants Shaquille to take that micro role so he can be in the middle and playing in space, reading the quarterback, getting the feel, and making plays. Since he's the playmaker, you want the playmaker to be out in the middle, kind of getting the feel, playing in space, and reacting to what he sees that the quarterback is doing or the plays development, the different route distributions that's coming from out of the backfield. I think that plays more to Shaquille's strong suit. So it's interesting to see that those two made a switch. I think it'll benefit both of them. Bobby's a big, fast guy that can run. He covers really well. I think Shaquille will be fine. I know everybody's panicking right now and freaking out with the reports from NFL Network and everything that's going on with him. Hopefully he be back soon. But I'm not worried about as far as Shaquille missing time. He's one of those guys that if anybody can miss time, and I feel like we'll be fine whenever they got back, he is one of those guys. As far as the guys that's on the back end, the bottom half of the depth chart, I'm shocked Sterling Weatherford's not a little bit higher. He was a guy who was a little higher on before training camp. But the way JoJo has been performing from everything I've heard, it's pretty much, he put it to bed. It was kind of a neck and neck race going into training camp, which one of those guys was going to take that step because they were kind of similar in profile. I know JoJo went to a bigger school and he's not as quite of a big of athlete, but he has a better feel for the position at this moment. Weatherford has been a safety his whole collegiate career. So he was making a complete position transfer. And I think he'll do better. If he didn't make the 53, he was able to get to the practice squad. I think they get a chance to work with him. They see him as one of those balls of clay too, a physical freak and a guy that if they spent more time with has more upside. But JoJo might be the right guy for the position right now.
Interesting stuff. I know you and yourself and Destin were big fans of Sterling Weatherford in this past draft cycle. You guys had him in mock drafts, and obviously when he was announced he was signing with the Colts as undrafted free agent, you guys were excited. Again, former safety, converted linebacker. He is now going to be able to showcase what he can do in 3 preseason games for the Colts this season. So now moving on to the corners before we get on to the safeties. And I mean, we can discuss kickers. Our good friend Zach Hicks. This will be his favorite segment when that comes on. We're
not discussing kickers. I'm just not going to. I'm staying muted.
Here for corners, okay? We already know if the traditional third linebacker Zaire Franklin is not in there, Kenny Moore will be your starting nickel. Stephon Gilmore, the former defensive player of the year, he will be your starting number 1 corner. And then an interesting debate about the number 2 corner outside opposite of Gilmore is Brandon Facyson right now. And Rashad, I want to hand you the mic here real quick, and then we'll go to Destin. For those who, are curious about why is Facyson, number 2 over Rodgers? Obviously, Rodgers is a ascending young player. He's a fan favorite. Talk to the people why a guy like Facyson, a vet in this game, would be number 2 over Rodgers.
A lot of people is probably unaware that Brandon's been with Gus Bradley his whole career, literally, since he was brought in by the Chargers as a rookie, moving with him to the Raiders and now moving with him again with the Indianapolis Colts. Brandon has been in his system for a long time, for a few years. He's a bigger corner He plays completely different from Isaiah Rodgers. He's a big physical guy, 6'2". He's a guy that's going to get up on you, play press, and he has the length that you want from your boundary corners. You know, that's the type of body type that Chris Ballard loves, and that's the type of body type that Gus Bradley wants in his defense. So it's no shock to me, you know, that he is the guy that's getting the call at the number 2 corner spot. Isaiah Rodgers, that's no knock on him, though. You know, he's a guy that wins in a completely different way. He wins with his feet, his hips, his quickness, his speed. You know, he's a great guy when it comes to going to play the ball. You know, he makes plays on the ball. That's what I love about Isaiah Rodgers for his size. I would like him to be more physical, you know, when the ball does arrive, you know, playing through the catch point. I would like him to get better at that and get a little stronger at that. But, you know, you can't really find many knocks in his game. You know, he has the recovery speed when he does get beat or make a technical mistake. But Brandon is just not a guy that's going to make those mistakes. You know, he doesn't break down technically, he doesn't break down fundamentally. He's just going to be a big, long corner. He's going to make the plays on the ball. When it's contested catch situations, he's a little stronger, able to rip the ball out. He's going to disrupt the routes at the line of scrimmage. That's his strong suit, and that's the way he plays. And that's what Gus Bradley favors, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was that big of a shock. I mean, Faison has been pretty much dominating the first team snaps for that spot. I mean, that was one of the big talks of every time I've been there, is that he's kind of had the grip on that second outside corner spot. But he's been with Bradley for quite some time. I still think it's pretty evident that when they call that heavy press type range, you're going to see Rodgers on the field. You're just not going to be able to keep him off the field in certain situations. I think Faison may see more red zone snaps, for an example, where they're going to want to keep Isaiah Rodgers where he can make up ground and that type of realm of it. I think it's just going to be all about keeping these guys fresh. I'm not really worried about who has the most snaps at the end of the day. I just want those 4 corners to stay healthy. And the big one for me was that Marvell Tell has been able to separate himself and stay as the backup there on the second spot, just because I think this was a big training camp for him after last year, not being able to make the roster, getting put on the practice squad here and there. I think him coming out and being able to earn that backup spot and hopefully earning 53-man roster spot would be big for him and the Colts because they like Tell. He's shown some promise. So if Marvell Tell is your 5th corner, I feel like that's a really good spot for this room that we've not had in a long, long time.
Yeah, Marvell Tell, obviously, he also sat out the 2020 year, obviously, when the pandemic happened. So he hasn't seen live action in, 2 years. And so now this is obviously a big camp for him. Other corners that were on the roster, obviously, Anthony Chesley, rookie Dallas Flowers, Marcel Dabo. No, he's listed as safety. Chris Wilcox. Chris Wilcox. Wow. And Alex Myers is also listed as the corners on this depth chart. Now let's get into the safeties because this one is going to be exciting. So the listed starters are going to be Julian Blackmon and starter rookie Nick Cross. Nick Cross is listed as the starter right now. Now, before we get into Nick Cross, Destin, Rashad, help me out. Is Rodney McLeod not starting because this is an early punishment for getting into a fight with the star of the football team, Michael Pittman?
I don't know about the star of the football team, but go ahead, Destin.
I mean, they've sprinkled in McLeod there. Him and Cross have kind of been going back and forth. It feels like that strong safety spot is one of the true non-decided starting spots. If you look in camp how they're splitting up reps, I just think when you see the athleticism of a Blackmon Cross back end, I don't see how they can't keep it out there because there's just such a high potential of that duo. Now, we know that Gus Bradley likes to run 3 safety sets. McLeod is going to get his. So I really don't think it's going to end up being an issue whether McLeod is the technical starting strong safety if he ends up taking it at some point in camp because he's a vet who's been around for a while. But I'm not shocked to see Cross there. I mean, Cross had multiple days where he had all the first team snaps before McLeod got to kind of start getting sprinkled in here and there.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I was going to mention McLeod starting on the PUP list. Although it was for an extremely short time, but he did start out training camp on the PUP list. Kind of gave Nick Cross that jump, and then Nick Cross catching the interception on the first day of practice. It really, that helped. That played into his favor a lot. But I just love Nick Cross, man. His big physical ability, even the plays he get beat on, he's right there. And I'm not even mad at that. To see a rookie just get beat by a guy that's a vet, that happens. But it's the way and the facet that you get beat in that let me know, exactly what's going on. It's not a blown coverage. It's not a mental mistake. It's not a fundamental breakdown. It's just a guy getting the better of you on a rep, which is going to happen, as long as you play. But the way he looks out there, he's looked like he's moving fast. He's flying around. He's actually ahead of schedule from where I thought he would be, honestly, at this time, before he played his first ever preseason game. Now, I would like to save it for a game and actually see him in a game before I just go off of what I'm seeing now in training camp. But all arrows are pointing up for him. And I wouldn't be surprised if week 1 comes around, man, and he takes that starting spot because he's been playing just that well.
And shout out Rodney Thomas II having that backup free safety spot over a guy like Armani Watts, who's a vet. They like Marcel Dabo, that German exchange guy going through. But the thing to always mention is that Dabo is a free roster spot for the Colts. They can have him on the practice squad for free, doesn't have to go through waivers. A very, very unique situation. So I feel like they like the raw athleticism there. They like the size. They've really been running him in the safeties primarily. So I feel like Dabo's a guy to watch because they're probably going to slide him onto the practice squad, let him work for a year and kind of see how that all plays out. But Rodney Thomas having that spot over Armani Watts, that was a big one for me that he's been able to show it enough to have it there. Because Armani Watts, he's not a great vet by any means, but he's been around. So Thomas being able to be a 7th round pick and earning that spot early is big.
Daniel Sorensen started over him, so I'm not really too shocked. Rodney Thomas is starting over Armani Watts, so I'm not really making that too big of a deal. But hey, shout out freaking Rodney Thomas, man. Y'all know I love him. Y'all know I'm a big fan of this guy.
That's your boy.
Huh?
I said that's your boy.
That's my guy.
Boy.
That's my guy, man. I'm ready to see
Yale
him.
Is Yale your second football team? Is
What's
Yale
up?
your second football team going forward? You got TCU Horned Frogs first, and you got Yale second.
All Mike does is yell on the podcast. So why would that not be his second?
Hey, man, I haven't been yelling for a while.
No, you've been doing good, man.
I haven't been yelling for a while. You know what I mean?
All right, guys. No, I think that's 2 dad jokes in a row in like a 30-second realm. So I think we're cut off.
I'm an actual dad, though. I'm allowed to get that off.
That is true. That is true. And Marcus, you have a new TikTok idea now. So, but yeah, again, I'm excited to see Rodney Thomas. Obviously, we'll get into that here in a little bit more. But again, shout out Rodney Thomas. And I don't think we really need to talk about kickers. Just bring one in that can hit the damn ball through the goalpost. 8 billion people in the world, find one. Okay, so now
Parity. Go ahead.
The Colts guys have a football game this Saturday, and I'm pretty excited about it because just football being back is exciting again. So let's talk about it. We're not going to get too in deep detail with everything here because obviously it's a preseason game. We don't need to go through all the little details. You know what I'm saying? We don't got to be bothered by those things at all. But before we get to that, get 20% off with free shipping with the code BStable20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code BStable20 at manscaped.com. It's smooth. Sack Summer Boys, get on board or get left behind. So let's get into this preseason game. Now, another interesting fact was Frank Reich coming out and openly saying that the starters are going to play a little bit more than usual. Obviously, when that was said, my heart dropped a little bit. When we turn the TV on, let's just say that we're going to be holding our breath every snap. Destin, Rashad, what do you guys make of Frank Reich coming out and saying the starters are going to play a lot more, not a lot more, but they're going to get some more run than they usually would?
I get it. I mean, they've been starting out slow the last few years. Does it terrify me? Yeah. But Matt Ryan said that he's missed playing in the preseason the last couple of years a little bit because he didn't play at all last year under the first year coach Arthur Smith. The COVID year obviously was a really, really unique situation going on with how they operated. So, I mean, if the guys want to because of the Matt Ryan addition and trying to get that under wraps, I get it. I still hope it's not a lot. I hope we see the starters 2 drives maximum in any game. If I see him more than 2, I just don't understand. And there are some guys that don't need to be out there. Jonathan Taylor, I don't want to see you. I don't care if Shaquille Leonard's back starts feeling amazing week 3 of preseason. You better not strap him up in the preseason whatsoever. And I really don't want to see Matt Ryan out there after week 2 personally. But they'll do whatever they got to do. They don't care what Destin Adams says.
Yeah, man. It's preseason, man. You know, you want to see the young guys get the reps. This is kind of their moment too. I'm a sucker for the guys that on the 90-man roster that's not gonna make it to 53. This is their moment, in my opinion, man. Having a family member that was one of those guys that had to fight for a roster spot, you know, seeing what they go through, the grind that it is, and the memories that it creates, man. I like to see those guys. So I want to see them get as much action as they can. Sure, you put the starters out there for a series or 2, because, you know, if you're playing Matt, you pretty much have to play the starting offensive line too. You're not going to put him out there with a bunch of backup offensive linemen to protect him. So that, you just, you know, is it worth it? Especially when it comes to week 2, when they're live practicing against the Lions. When the game time comes, you don't need to see those guys. It's pretty pointless at that point. So hopefully those guys get in for a quick 2 series max, in my opinion, and then get those guys out of there. You let the guys fight that really has something to prove, the guys that really need the reps. If you want to play some of your starters that's rookies a little longer, that's understandable. You want to play Nick Cross a couple of extra series, a series or 2. You want to play Alec Pierce a series or 2. You want to give Jelani Woods and Ogletree snaps. Have at it. Knock yourself out. I understand it totally from their perspective, but I don't need to see Paris Campbell out there too long. Just Naheem Hines, there's nothing to prove out there. You know, like, I just want those guys to be injury free, please.
Yeah, Taylor Hines, Gilmore, Leonard, Buckner, you know, Ngakoue. Those are the guys that, man, I really don't need to see you. We'll see you in Houston week 1. So, guys, here we go. We're not going to, you know, this isn't your regular pregame or anything, but the Colts are traveling to Buffalo. I don't really give a damn if Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs or Gabriel Davis is playing. I don't care. But what is one room that you're going to be paying attention to when this game is going on? Rashad, let's go with you first.
Oh, man, I kind of tipped my hand when I was going through the people that I wanted to see play. It's this tight end room, man. I want to see what those guys got, because it's 3 of those guys that really need to show something this Saturday. Colin Granson, Drew Ogletree, Jelani Woods. They're going to get a lot of snaps. They're going to get a lot of reps. I want to see what those guys can do, because we need a playmaker to emerge from that position. Although we have Mo Alley-Cox, who's number 1 clear cut, we need a playmaker aside from him to emerge, whether it's Granson doing it with his quick feet and his route running ability, or whether it's Drew Ogletree or Jelani Woods doing it with their size. We need to find that mismatch that we can rely on throughout the season. So I'm going to be looking for the tight ends, which one of y'all show me something, man.
Hey, I like that, because Nick Foles is a guy who's been a Super Bowl MVP. He has been in big, high-profile games. He knows what is expected of him. He knows how to play. I think that's a really great option to have as your second quarterback, especially if he's going to get more preseason reps, to really see where your guys are. Guys like Drew Ogletree, guys like Jelani Woods, and obviously in the receiver room. I do love that aspect. I'm not sure how much more we're going to get of Nick Foles, maybe like 3 series, maybe the first half. But, you know, it's a little bit better than having to, you know, use Sam Ehlinger to decide where guys are at. No shots intended.
Yeah, for me, the guys I'm excited to see that some people may look at this not that exciting. I'm really excited to see this second team offensive line. just because in years past, the depth in the offensive line has come to eat us in the butt, man, and cause issues. I like a lot of these young guys, but I'm really curious to see how they can hold their own if they ever had to start this year. Ryman at left tackle. A lot of good things are coming out about the vet out of IU, Jason Spriggs at the guard spot. Wesley French, who has the backup center spot right now. Uber athletic guy. RAS is in the +9s at the center spot, so excited to see him out there. I'm a big Will Fries guy, and I've heard so many good things from the team that they really like his potential as a backup guard. And then we got Ryan Van DeMark right now penciled in at the right tackle with Dennis Kelly down. So I'm really excited to see all those youth in that second offensive line, just give them some live action snaps.
We stain Will Fries on this podcast. All right, let's just make that be known.
Hey, we have a French and we have Fries right next to each other.
Hey, French fry.
We got Wesley at the center.
I legit didn't even think about that.
Yeah, we got Wesley.
But we
French.
have the dad jokes, right?
Hey,
okay.
hey, I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying, on the back of their jerseys, you're going to see Wesley French in the center, and you're going to see Will Fries at right guard. That's just perfect marketing.
Dude,
right
we
there.
need that in the preseason. Please give us that.
Oh, it's
No,
got
please,
it. That's
Chris
the second team
Strasser,
offensive
please
line.
give us that on Saturday.
Don't give us that. Don't. I can do without it. I promise you. I can do without French fries.
Hey man, we just need the memes and the graphic designs. Okay, that's what we need it for. Okay? My position, I'm gonna go with the secondary in general. Obviously, you know, Gilmore, Kenny Moore, Brandon Facyon. With Isaiah Rodgers, I want to see a little bit more in his technique, what he's working on. Whoever the wide receiver one is going to be for Buffalo, I don't expect Diggs to be that guy, but if he is, I would like to see him matched up on the outside. When it comes to other corners, obviously everybody behind Rodgers, Marvell Tell, Anthony Chesley, you got Tony Brown, who's also listed as a nickel guy. I want to see where those guys go. Right now, it's preseason. They're not going to be, coaching all the specifics. They just want to know, can you stick to your assignment and can you play special teams? That's really what they're looking for. Can you stick to your assignment? Don't be the reason why a blown coverage is made. Just stick to your assignment. Do what you got to do the basic stuff. And when we get into the season, we'll start coaching more and more on that, on all the advanced stuff and everything. With the safeties, obviously, again, Rodney McLeod, if he plays or not, I don't know. Julian Blackman, Nick Cross, but guys like Marcel Dabo, guys like Armani Watts, Rodney Thomas II, I want to see where those guys are, again, when it comes to special teams, when it comes to their assignments, whether if they're ever playing single high, if they're in the box, if they're just playing that hybrid safety role, because each safety spot is going to have its different assignments, but who just does the basics right? That's really all it's going to be. It's not just do the little things right in the preseason, and I think you'll get far. So other than that, guys, I don't think we have anything else. Any other closing remarks from you guys?
Oh, man, thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate it. Y'all go check out our articles. Destin has his training camp recap article, and I have my season preview articles. Y'all go to thebluestable.com. I'm sure Mike will have it linked somewhere in the description. Y'all go check that out, man.
On the very bottom, very, very bottom. Like, don't even go all the way down there like that. But obviously, shout out Destin Rashad. They are our NFL insiders, writers for the Blue Stable. Obviously, you saw that with the titles that they have. They're obviously going up there big time, big games. That's why we always say, I need a grant, I need a loan or something, got to help pay these bills. And I know y'all got the extra change and everything. So other than that, guys, once again, make sure if you are not already subscribed to the Blue Stable, comment down below. What are your thoughts from this depth chart? What are your thoughts and what are you expecting, looking for from this preseason game? Again, subscribe, help us get to 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there, guys. We need your help. We need your help. Check out all the articles you possibly can on thebluestable.com. Once again, he is Destin Adams. He is Rashad McGinnis. I am Michael Pevia. We will see you next week, hopefully talking about Rodney Thomas emerging as the starting strong safety. Because again, who's Nick Cross when you got Rodney Thomas? We'll see you next week.